Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to present my contribution into the Ministerial report as a proud Deputy Chief Minister of the Northern Territory, a place where I was born, a place where I've grown up and a place where I intend to continue and grow up my family here. Madam Speaker, the Chief Minister outlined the CLP's vision for 2025: action, certainty and security. Those three words are very important because, Madam Speaker, that is what the Territory needs to move forward. For at least the last 8 years, there's been no action, there's been no certainty and there's been no security under the previous Labor government. All we've had was scandal after scandal, share scandal after share scandal, members making money out of misery, owning shares in the liquor industry, while they let Alice Springs essentially burn to the ground. Madam Speaker, that's why certainty is a welcome change for Territorians after a long 8 years. We will deliver our election commitments to reduce crime, rebuild the economy and restore our unique Territory lifestyle. We are Labor's-focused on making the Northern Territory the most attractive and competitive place to live, work and invest. Madam Speaker, the soft on crime approach is another failed Labor experiment. It has done nothing to reduce the unacceptable crime, harm and violence in our community. In fact, it has increased over the last 8 years to unacceptable levels. Poor Labor policies created more victims of crime, crippled local businesses, drove away investment, causing devastating economic impact. That is their legacy, Madam Speaker, failing to address the crime, failed to grow our economy and neglecting our overstretched correction system. As the Minister for Corrections, I can inform the Assembly that the prison population has increased in unbroken fashion since 2020. Madam Speaker, the demand that we're facing right now is not new. Labor have left us with a corrections crisis right across the Northern Territory. For 8 years, they ignored the growing problem, doing nothing as our prisons become overcrowded and overflowed into watchhouses. Madam Speaker, the CLP is ending the excuses and making the tough decision necessary to fix this mess. That is why, Madam Speaker, immediately after the election in August, the government developed the Corrections Infrastructure Master Plan to increase capacity. Madam Speaker, this government has stood up the Berrima Correctional Centre, expanding the correctional capacity in the Northern Territory. We have already delivered 164 beds at Berrima, with an additional 48 expected by the end of this month. Madam Speaker, there is a 96-bed modular section at Alice Springs Correctional Centre which is about to come online. Madam Speaker, this project has blown out under the previous government. I think there's over $10 million more than it was budgeted for, and of course, Madam Speaker, it is late and is delayed, which causes overcrowding. Another example of how this Labor government neglected the correction system and resolved to do nothing. Let people wait in overcrowded corrections, and I say overcrowded police watchhouses, because this Labor government failed to deliver anything for the prisoners and certainly failed to deliver a safe workplace for the corrections officers. Let me be clear, Madam Speaker. If you commit a crime in the Northern Territory, we will find a bed for you. Offenders will be responsible for their actions and there will be consequences for breaking the law. We're giving the victims of crime certainty, security and the respect they deserve. Our key focus on our correction strategy is to expand education, skills and training to combat and break the cycle of reoffending. Many prisoners have been accused of or convicted of such crimes as assault and domestic family violence. Under the last 8 years, Madam Speaker, we've seen an 82% increase in domestic violence and family assaults under this failed Labor government. The previous government in 24-25 budgeted included $1.25 billion to address crime, $1.25 billion funded for years that have failed law and order policies. As I said earlier, Madam Speaker, we're here to make the tough decisions. Our government policies have put 500 more prisoners behind bars since we came to office, providing certainty to Territorians that we are addressing crime. Madam Speaker, I think no matter where you live in the Northern Territory, crime is the #1 priority. We need to make the Territory a safe place to live, work and stay. We can't expect visitors and investors to come here and bring their families, bring their workers if they're going to become a victim of crime. Madam Speaker, we're going to focus on rebuilding the economy. For the last 6 years, our economy has been the nation's worst and will recently be described as stuck in neutral. This situation is unacceptable and Territorians deserve better to see their tax dollars spent in a better way and a more restrained way to ensure that they get the best bang for buck. Public service spending over the last 20 years has crippled. Reckless spending on Labor projects such as the $56 million project Sea Dragon Roads to Nowhere, which is in my electorate, which has opened up Gunpoint Road for nowhere. $12 million on the Nightcliff Police Station lunchroom, and that's how we've got us into this massive debt, these failed Labor policies to deal with the real roots of crime and failed to rebuild the economy and, of course, failed to restore our lifestyle. Madam Speaker, this failed Nightcliff Police Station is not a reflection on a hard-working police, and I want to say we back the police 100%. We back the corrections officers 100%. What it is a reflection on the wasteful spending of the previous government. Imagine how many corrections officers, police officers, nurses, teachers that we could have brought to the Territory if we hadn't wasted just the $56 million on Project Sea Dragon, never alone all the other wasteful projects. And I know there's a big list, Madam Speaker, but I have to say my favourite one is the $5,000 on the Christmas tree a few years ago. It just goes to show this Labor government failed to rebuild the economy. We know that there's a white elephant sitting out just outside this building. There's no plan for the operational costs, never alone the blowouts for that, Madam Speaker, not to mention the youth justice facility at Holtz, which I think is just on 2 years late and about $70 million over budget. I'll let that sink in, Madam Speaker, $70 million over budget. And I think the member for Gorgia was the previous corrections minister. So there's $70 million that we could have spent on police, we could have spent on community safety, on housing in Palmerston. We could have spent that on antisocial behaviour. But yet this failed Labor government failed the Territory, and their policies have resulted in unprecedented crime and a soft on crime approach which has affected Territorians right across the Northern Territory. Madam Speaker, not to mention the battery bonus that this government have brought in. We've doubled the available funding to $6 million, and we know that this Labor government previously announced that they would grandfather the premium feed-in tariff, which they changed. They promised something and they didn't deliver it. In fact, they broke their promise, clearly broke their promise in relation to the feed-in tariff. The CLP government have raised the battery bonus to $12,000. Since 1 December, Madam Speaker, over 260 applications have been received. 80% of those have been approved. That's 3 times more than the average monthly applications under the old scheme. Madam Speaker, we're going to provide certainty. I also ensure that these investors, they want certainty. They're going to bring their money to the Territory. They need certainty. They need to make sure that approvals means approved. And we know that the Minister for Planning has removed the merits review. That's going to send a clear message to these to developers. Bring your money to the Territory. We know that there's going to be some competition from probably the USA in the next year or so. We want to make sure that we make this place the best place to invest money, and hopefully those investors come here because we've got gas, we want to get it out of the ground, we want to use it to lower the cost of living, and of course we want royalties to be paid on that. Madam Speaker, I understand the member for Nightcliff or Johnson said there's no tax on gas coming on. Madam Speaker, that is simply not true. I want to correct the record. The Pepper inquiry says it could be approximately $17 billion into the economy, $17 billion. So we need to support the gas industry. We need to make sure that those investors have got certainty, because not only the money they'll invest here and the royalties, but also the jobs. over 6,000 jobs, and we need to make sure that this place is a place which is safe and where you've got a job. There's no point having the best lifestyle if you can't afford to live here. Madam Speaker, we're also dealing with mining. We want to ensure